Hey, are you the unofficial strawweight division matchmaker at this point?
No, I know it seems like that because we have had a lot of straw weights, but no.
That should be a
Good.
thing, though, don't you think? That wouldn't that be cool? Like even at coffee, every drink should be drinking from a straw. That should be a thing. I'll
Yeah,
take
that's quite a stable. I mean, you have an amazing stable from top to bottom. But when I was kind of going and brushing up on it a little bit, the reminders there. Strawweight is definitely one of your top ones for sure.
Yeah, I think it was after Weili won the belt that Ariel had mentioned, or that we had every strawweight champion since the division was started, and I didn't even think of that stat until he pointed that out. So yeah, it's interesting.
For sure. By the way,
Yeah.
is that kind of behind the scenes a good thing, like a good problem to have for a manager, or does it create problems for you in the end?
Um, I don't know. I don't think it, there's some, I hear people, say, oh, sometimes you have too many fighters in this and this, but I don't think a lot of times people understand the benefit of having a pretty credible roster like that. It gives a lot of pull, for from sponsors to working with all the promotions. It I think it helps, but I can understand as an individual fighter how they might get themselves into the mindset like, oh, there's not going to be any attention for me then. But do you want attention from somebody that doesn't necessarily have a lot of pull in the industry that you're trying to climb in, or you know what I mean? Like it's like I'm sensitive to both sides of that issue, I guess. But to me, I think the the larger the network, the more credible the network, the stronger the business.
But I meant more specifically, I think you answered the question as far as having a massive roster, which you do. But I mean, as far as like in certain divisions where you kind of have a lot of people, and especially top fighters, in the end, they're all chasing the dream to be a champion. So, feelings can get hurt. Oh, look, so and so got the matchup I wanted, like that type of thing.
I mean, yes, but I try to be as clear with all of our clients about how the process of the matchmaking ends up happening. Like I don't. We can lobby for particular matchups, and sometimes we get them, and sometimes we don't. And with the girls, and even in the UFC, when sometimes your guys, if you have enough people in there, they have to face each other. I don't try to match our guys up, our girls up in regional shows where we're trying to build them to get them their big break. But once they make it to the big stage, they've done their job, we've done ours, and they may have to face each other because they're on this. While they might be under the same management, they're not going to be under the same necessarily under the same fight team or gym. So it can get weird. We're in a bit of a weird situation now. Well, I am just because Weili's the champ and the top contenders for the belt are both clients that we represent.
Brian, are women easier to work with or men in mixed martial arts?
I got into uh, a conversation or a debate about this on another interview or a hangout. We were doing a hangout watching some fights um, with Robin Black, and there was a bunch of people on there. One of them was a female fighter that I didn't represent, and I was asked the same question, and they're different, and I kind of got myself in trouble with the person. I feel like because she was like, no, they aren't different. You're making a general assumption, and I'm like, well, there's differences. In my opinion, I feel like I've seen there's differences in that they're not. I'm not saying they're bad. Like for example, I think it's so much easier. The women in general, tend to be better on their social media than the men. You know, uh, the in my opinion, there's different emotions leading up to a fight with women than there are men. I'm not saying that either are bad, or better than the other. I mean, at the end of the day, it's, the business we're in is almost, we make a joke that it's like professional babysitting. We have to, every person is different, and I don't know. I'm trying not to get myself in trouble again with.
Understood. All right. How about what happened about a year and a half ago with King of the Cage? You had a client there, but King of the Cage said, we're not letting them go because we committed that, we're committed to them as well, and we've invested in some money. I feel like along the way, we all have to evolve, right? So now when you do business, I mean, I guess it's as easy as saying, well, I'm just not going to do business with them. But has your contract had to evolve over the years as well, like even outside the UFC, to make these clarifications so that, something like that doesn't happen?
So we got everything finally resolved with King of the Cage. The client was Draco Rodriguez, and Draco is now in the UFC. He had a tremendous performance on Contender Series, and his last fight was canceled. But looking forward to getting him back in. Now it seems like there's not that many shows that are actually operating, and the ones that are probably on the larger end of the regional circuit, if that makes any sense. And I have, myself and Brian Hamper, we have really good relations with the promoters, and I feel like they've changed their mindset. Their business model now is to try to get people to the next level. So they actually are encouraging it, at least I know with like LFA, Titan, and CFFC, there's no issue anymore with them. I think at the time, with King of the Cage, I think Terry was still operating under a different type of model where he wanted to keep fighters exclusive for a period of time because they may have been ticket sellers or whatever it was. But I don't have anything new in our contract. I think that the business has evolved, and the outlook of the promoters has changed as well.
Brian, we speak to a lot of managers, and each manager has their own personality and their own style. But the one that's a little unique to yourself, in my opinion, is you're a manager, but I've also seen fighters look at you as a big brother, as a father figure, and I've seen you take that role on, and I know it can be stressful sometimes, but maybe you can help clarify some things. So there's a lot of media, there's a lot of fans that just have opinions of fighters, and sometimes it just seems like they get them wrong. Whenever we meet these people in person, we realize, well, they're not really like this, and you're around them a lot. When it comes to Rose Namajunas, what's one thing that people just completely get wrong over and over about her?
I would say that there is a perception out there that she is mentally weak or something like that. I was like, but to me, Rose takes on. Sorry, guys. Rose challenges herself. She is not somebody that I think is. Everybody's like, oh, she's not ready to be the champ. She doesn't want the pressure of being the champ. I mean, that's not true at all. I mean, she was the one that decided to go to Brazil to fight Andrade, to defend the belt. Like that's, if you're such a mentally weak person, why would you choose to go to, really enemy territory in someone else's hometown against such a tough fighter as Jessica, So I think the general perception that is wrong about Rose is that she doesn't mentally have the toughness to be the champ.
A guy like Paul Felder, when you first signed him, did you see a lot of the things in him that eventually played out, how versatile of a human being he can be? As far as fighting, broadcasting, the dude seems like if you just give him a playbook, he'll make it happen. Did you see that from the very beginning, from the get-go with that guy?
I didn't actually. It took me a little bit to get to know Paul. I knew he was kind of a funny guy, but like, and he had a very charming personality. I met him for the first time. It was out in Ireland, after we'd signed him. But as I started hanging out with him more, I started realizing, I was like, man, he's really a genuinely good person, and actually his sense of humor is hilarious. It's almost a self-deprecating type of humor that he has. Sorry guys, I have to keep moving around. And he was, very, very good on the microphone. You saw that early on from some of the earlier shows that he would work on before he got the deal with the UFC and now ESPN. So yeah, I mean, again, and even with his social media, I'm like, man, I was like, when you looked at him from his social media, he was a far different person when you met him in person than he was what he was projecting on his social media. So, I've had this conversation with him, and you've seen that he's opened up a lot more on his social media channels and let his personality kind of shine through there a lot more over the last couple of years.
I, for one, am okay with you moving around because you look like you're in MMA heaven. Every time we see a new shot of whatever room you're in right now, I'm paying attention to you, but I'm also going, what is that? What is that? There's belts behind you on the other side. What is going on in that room? Is that like a man cave or something?
Yeah, this is pretty much my man cave. I made a little bar, a pub in my house.
Nice.
He's showing it off with the trophies and the medals. Now there's all kinds of cool pics. He's like, yeah, I got a kink in my neck. Let me just change the angle here. I got some more awards to show you.
No, these are just friends. There's nobody there.
Brian,
there's Rose and Pat.
I want to talk to you about what I thought was a typo. I'm scrolling through Instagram, and then I see your name, and then I see 6'4" lightweight. Those words don't go together. Is that possible? How is that possible?
Yeah, we just signed a prospect that's out in Vegas, Isaiah, and I haven't met him in person yet, but he trains with Keith Lee and a few other of our guys out there, and he is apparently a 6'4" lightweight with apparently world-class striking. So he's only 21 years old, so I don't know if he'll stay a lightweight, but excited to see how he develops.
How about Jens Pulver? We just
every year. Pulver?
What's that?
How about Jens Pulver? How come he is still not in the Hall of Fame?
Exactly. Every year that goes by and we get these announcements, and I'm not shitting on anybody that's been announced recently. It seems like every time I hear one of these names, I'm nodding my head saying, okay, that works for me or whatever. But I'm still waiting for it. I felt like we were close. And can you update us on that?
I can't. I know that he's doing more things now with the UFC. We just signed a 1-year contract for Jens to stream with the UFC and Twitch as a partner. So he'll be doing his weekly streams there. So he's excited about that, and he's been doing that consistently on his own and building his own fan base on Twitch on his own channel for some time now. So it's nice to see that he's getting that recognition from the UFC to actually utilize him there. We did a trial run with the UFC last year, towards the end of last year, on their Twitch net channel or whatever, and he killed it. Christoph at the UFC said that he was such a pleasure to work with and so good at what he did that they re-upped him, and we just signed a new deal for him. So hopefully this puts him kind of back in the presence of the brand, and more people will start to do it. And I feel like it's coming. I don't know why it's taking so long, but it's ridiculous that he's not in, but I feel like he'll get there.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. A guy that finished his career as a 35er, but yet ruled the 55 division, has that win over BJ Penn, owned the belt, defended the title. I mean, and this was during a time where they were just kind of giving them that little brush off, kind of like what Flyweight got a couple years ago, just like, oh yeah, there they are, But little did they know that the lightweight division might arguably be the most popping division they've ever had, especially because McGregor and Khabib are massive stars that they produced. Ferguson, I mean, Felder, the list goes on and on there. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. I mean, it was the first, I think anytime someone is the first at, champion of something as big as what the UFC is now, I feel like that's a shoe-in for, you know, being recognized in the Hall of Fame. I mean, it's like first person on the moon, you know?
Yeah. Zhang
That would go
Weili.
for Carla Esparza too. I mean, if we're on that vein right now, yeah, she was the very first strawweight champion. I feel like there should be recognition there.
And technically an Ultimate Fighter champion as well.
Ultimate Fighter, and she's also fought her way back now to be in you know, contention for the title again. So, you know, it wasn't like she was a one and done type of you know, champion. She's still at the top of the game.
I root for fighters that do that. Glover Teixeira's done something similar where you're like, oh, I think he's done. And then all of a sudden they come steaming back. They'll take out a veteran, an up-and-comer, you know, and now all of a sudden, boom, you know, look at me now, that type of thing. I really, really cheer for a lot of those fighters that don't. I'm not saying they quit on themselves, but the ones that just keep charging forward, you know. So shout out to definitely to Carla Esparza. And I guess while we're at it, no. I had one more, and then we'll talk about strawweight. Zhang Weili, Joanna Jędrzejczyk did get fight of the year. Have you already talked to the champ and what that meant, you know, for her? And what did you think? Where do you categorize that fight in the history of our sport?
And that was, to me, that was obviously fight of the year. You know, I know, and there was a lot of great fights. I think it was definitely fight of the year, and I think it's up there with one of the best fights ever. You know, that fight was crazy. Maybe it was because I was there live, or, you know, I don't know. I think a lot of people kind of agree with me that fight, you know, raised the bar, especially for the strawweights. You know, that was a battle, and you know, Weili's position on it. She's very humble with everything that she does, and she was honored to compete in it. She was thankful for you know, Joanna bringing the best out in her, and yeah, she's just ready to go again, actually.
And that would be my next question. What do you think? We've seen some fight bookings. Nunes has her fight booking. Israel Adesanya and Blachowicz have their fight booking. Still waiting on Usman, and then I guess I would obviously throw in Zhang Weili as part of that group as well.
Yeah, you know, Weili has been ready to go for some time now. The only hesitancy is that, you know, her last fight, and I don't know if everybody knows the full details on everything that happened, but for her to even get to that fight was you know, trials and trials just to get there. You know, they flew her to avoid the COVID. They flew her to Thailand, and then Thailand started to lock down, so they flew her to Abu Dhabi. I mean, she was traveling for the last third of that camp. She was just flying all around the world just to kind of escape getting locked into a country, and then finally gets to Vegas, puts on the performance that she does, and then she's stuck in Vegas for several months after the fight because she can't go home. And then when she finally does get home, she has to, you know, basically get locked up again for another month when she's there. So she has been, you know, a little bit paranoid to come back stateside right now until things kind of calm down. And that I can understand that, because she was gone from home for the better part of a half a year just for that one fight, you know. So we're waiting for some opportunities. We were hoping to get her on in Abu Dhabi, but that card's obviously filled up, and you know, we're looking to, you know, get her on shortly here in the first quarter of 2021.
You can confirm it'll be Rose, though?
No, I cannot confirm that, actually. It's you know, they're still in talks. We're still in talks with the UFC about Rose, but I can tell you that Rose is ready. Rose has been ready. She's been training and been in camp. Rose is ready to fight, honestly, in the next, you know, she could fight on a couple of weeks' notice. She's ready to go. So, you know, what we have to see. It could be Rose. It could be Carla. It could be whoever. But let's see.
It sounds like the UFC almost dropped the ball. Like, it sounds like if they know what Weili Zhang went through, what does she prefer, Zhang Weili or Weili Zhang? Because I've heard both.
Well, typically in that culture, the family name comes first. But so like my Chinese last name is Ao, and when you pronounce it in Chinese, Ao, it comes before the the last name. But yeah, either way works.
Okay, we'll just call her Weili then. So knowing what Weili went through and knowing that Fight Island was coming up, and then Rose did clarify, yeah, I do want to fight. Should that fight have already been booked on this run they're gonna have in early 2021?
I mean, there are some things that need to be worked out. And I can't say that any ball was dropped. I can just say that there are things that are ongoing right now that need to be worked out, and hopefully they'll get worked out soon.
Sounds like financial dealings. And as a fan, I'm media, but I'm fan too. I see them raise that pay-per-view. It's because they're paying the fighters. Pay the fighters. Let's get the fights going. That's a great fight, man. Rose versus Weili. They usually figure it out. It sucks that the negotiating takes so long nowadays.
I'd say that maybe the delays are in large, in part because let's face it, the UFC has done a lot to just bring the sport back online. And I know that they're using all of their resources to keep it online. So I'm not going to hammer them if things take longer than they normally would, because I know that the staff is running with all hands on deck right now. So it'll work itself out at some point, and I think everybody will end up being happy. But the only thing I do want to clarify is that Rose is ready.
Yeah, I know the pandemic is a lot to blame, but we did not see as many champions fight, much less defend last year like we have in previous years. A couple of them stayed busy, but a few of them, it just hasn't been happening. And hey, we just finished talking about one half of the fight of the year involved Weili. We want to see her fight again, and that division, man, strawweight is so deep with talent. I'd love to see her fight 3 times in 2021, honestly.
Yeah, we would love that too. She would love that too. But again, like, I can't blame the UFC for that. Like, I watching what Weili had to do just to have that last fight happen before and after, I could understand. Like, unless she's got certain guarantees that she's going to be able to go home after the fight, I would be hesitant too. And a couple of weeks here and there, that's not a big deal. I get it. 2-week quarantine, 2 week before, 2 week after, but 3 months before, 3 months after, that's excessive, and those are some concerns on her end that we need to make sure get addressed for her to want to, get into a fight.
Brian, have you considered pulling a Figueiredo? Now, I know it's hard to say, okay, so after you beat Rose, I know it's hard to put that to a fighter, but could she conceivably commit to, if that scenario happens, just give me another fight? And I'm not saying 3 weeks like Figueiredo did, but maybe within the 3 months, she just stays in Vegas and boom, knocks out the other one. And by the way, at this point, China loves their athletes. Doesn't she have President Xi on speed dial or anything like that? I mean...
Yeah, I don't think it's all, like I said, I don't think it's all China. I think there's the virus is causing problems in every country. So you get over one hurdle in one country, you're going to face one when you land in the next. So, there's a lot of moving parts to it. And as far as, Weili, trying to set up something beyond Rose or Carla or whoever, I mean, no, I don't think that that's something that we're doing, because nobody's looking past anybody at this point. That they are the very top fighters in the division, and you never know what can happen, and so no, nobody's looking like that.
Yeah, I definitely want to be clear. I don't want no thugs coming after me. I definitely didn't mean Weili should look past Rose, because Rose is awesome. I mean, she's as complete of a fighter as there is out there. Been a huge fan of hers, but I don't know. I guess I was just trying to think outside the box, like what could be done, because that division, like I said, it's got so much talent, and then we got a lot of fighters working their way up. Panda's working her way up. Suarez, I guess if she ever comes back, you know she's going to be an instant contender. But anyway, I guess. And
Yeah,
as
there's
far as
a lot of fights, and there's a lot of options, you know, if things play out. But I think that the order right now is, Rose and Carla uh, is where it's at, and then see what happens after that.
about 2-3 months ago, I saw you very, very mad about client poaching, that topic. And then again, I go to your Twitter and Instagram, and I'm just trying to update myself. What's Brian got going on? Because we want to ask the X's and O's questions, your fighter stable. But what's Brian got going on? And right on your Twitter profile, it says, "I got there by not slithering through the grass." Or I got here by not slithering through the grass. You're still making this statement. So my question to you is, does this get policed in any way in MMA when that does happen, the way I've seen it in other sports leagues where agents have to
No,
abide by a certain code, or I don't know?
no, it doesn't. And at this point, I used to always, to try to take the high road and not say stuff, and I always try to build bridges. Like, I'm friends with most of the managers, most of the main managers in the industry. We work together. Everybody's always talking about a union and this and that. Well, my opinion is, if there is no formal union, but we're all working together, we kind of have one, right? But there's still some, managers out there that just operate under this, this used car salesman premise where all they're trying to do is, I don't know, selfish. I don't know. They're just scumbags. So I've just started venting them out on my social media when it happens. Like, I don't care. Like, listen, if they're gonna poach a client and the client goes, then it's on the client. The client can't see. If the client can't see a snake oil salesman when they're coming, then they kind of get what they deserve if they go. But usually when I'm posting those things, it's because my clients are showing me the poach attempt, and I'm like, oh my God, same thing again. Like, come on. And I've had long talks with other coaches that they've tried to call on, because we work closely with several teams, where I would say we probably manage a majority of a lot of fight teams in general. And they've some of the stuff that goes on behind the scenes with the way these guys try to slide in, it's humorous. So when I hear it, I'm like, oh my God, it's the same line he used on this person, the same line he used on that one. It's like, give it up. There's enough business out there for everybody. Take care of your people instead of running them through like cattle, and just do your job and take care of your people, and your business will grow. Why do you got to try to come after work that other people have already done and put a lot of time into? And I don't know, for me, it just ethically bugs me. So at this point, I'm just calling them out because screw them. I don't need to. They don't do anything for me. I'm never going to work with them. I don't have any reason to be polite anymore, I guess.
All right. We were discussing when fighters move up to become champs. Is there tremendous benefits? Like Douglas Lima attempted it and he came up short, and so now he'll go back to being the great welterweight that he is. Being the champ, title defenses, all that stuff. But do they do it more for legacy, or is it also financially lucrative, and also like lucrative on the sense of your brand, maybe for sponsorship?
Yeah, I think it's obvious. It's a little of everything. And with Douglas, Douglas is probably not done going after that middleweight strap as well. He knows it. I think a lot of people behind the scenes know it. Like the same type of thing. Douglas didn't get beat. He let himself get beat, I guess is what you want. He had a lot of respect for Gegard, and the same way he did for Rory when they first fought. I think if that fight happens again, I think the same thing will happen that did with when he fought Rory again. Like Douglas will go in with a different mindset, like the respect level, and Douglas beats himself up over it all the time when we talk about it, and he knows what he can do, and I think that he's still the champ situation is still in his future.
Brian, when situations come up like that, you're right. That night, that just didn't seem like Douglas, and
He's
when those
respectful,
when those type of performances happen, can you almost see them coming like days before, like the way a fighter is or anything they say? Are there times where you're looking back, you can kind of see signs that might actually happen?
Not with Douglas. With Douglas, I can tell you that he is actually genuinely always a respectful person. So it kind of is par for the course of his personality. He's never a trash talker, never, yeah, I can just tell when Douglas respects somebody, he, as a fighter and also a person that, I don't know. It just, like I said, I won't name names, but there are people that we talk to in behind the scenes that think the same thing. If a rematch happens, the outcome will be very similar to the rematch with Douglas and Rory.
Are all your clients kind of on the same playing field as far as if you pick up a phone from one of them, do you have to change your mindset at all from one to another? Because when I see them all together, they kind of all get along, and that to me kind of says that Brian kind of has these standards of who he signs, and everybody just seems to be good people. And I don't know, like when you're going from client to client, is there much change between them and between yourself?
I mean, I've tried to be the same. I don't think that. I mean, I do know everybody's personality is different. Everybody's humor is different. Everybody, has different concerns and different worries. So I think the fact that I can recognize that is probably what keeps everything together. If and I do like to think that not only do we work with some of the best fighters on the planet, but some of the best people. Like I'm very proud of our roster and the people that we have on it, the way they conduct themselves. So, and if there were people that were acting a certain way, our personalities probably wouldn't get along, and I honestly would have, at that point, the contract doesn't become a big issue. It's my motivation wouldn't be there. I know Hamper's motivation wouldn't be there. To work with anybody that is just gonna sour the bunch.
If you don't mind, just this is the last thing here. Can you just give us a tour of your man cave? Is there anything you wouldn't want people to see? Because it all looks like pretty cool stuff there.
Yeah, it's so yeah. I built a bar.
Look at that. Nice.
And I have, like, on the walls, I have things that I've collected. This is the very first project that I did in MMA was with Jens when he fought Cub Swanson. So that's his shirt.
Mm-hmm.
And, the sponsorships. This was basically the beginning of SuckerPunch back in 2007. And then my second client was Jeff Kern, who I met at this show because he fought Uriah Faber in the main event. And this was my first job with Jeff afterwards. And then this was Felice, who was one of our first females that we ever managed. And this was way back before this is when she was fighting in the XFO, but we still had Alienware on her. And then, of course, Max, and Carla when she won her belt, and Weili when she won it. Some raps from Paul and going to the hospital with him and him flicking me off. Kai Kamaka.
Are you and Matt in contact, by the way, anymore at all?
No.
Okay.
And then some other stuff. Weili's, when she won in Beijing, and some of the stuff here. Angela with her gloves that she gave me, and she gave me this Christmas present that she got in a vending machine in Japan, which was I guess you can buy used panties. And she thought it would be funny to tape herself getting it. Oh, and some gloves that belong to Manny. I haven't hung these yet, Manny, but these are Manny's from Bellator.
Mm-hmm.
And
Who gave you those
Yeah.
belts?
these were gifts from Max from when he won the interim title, and then when he got the real one. But
Wow.
they're not the real. They're just like he got one for everybody on the team at the time.
Mm,
Nice.
that's awesome. You have an
Yeah.
awesome Dave.
No, thanks.
Thanks for the tour. Okay,
Yeah.
so thanks for the time today. Really appreciate it. You know, we caught up on a lot. I also wanted to tell you, I believe his name was Chowder, your dog.
Chowder, yeah.
You lost him earlier this year, right?
Yeah, July 30th. Yeah,
That's
that's my
tough,
boy.
man, because I remember seeing a lot of videos leading up to you showing,
That's
you
my
sharing
boy.
that he was slowing down and all that. And
Uh,
it hit home a little because our dog is 17 and he's slowing down. But then,
17.
yeah, when I
What kind of
saw
dog?
that he eventually passed away, you know, so many people reached out and all that. But I just wanted to tell you, man, as a dog lover, I know that that's, you know, your best friend and he was with you for a while. And so, you know, sorry for that. Because like I say, I know
Thank
2020
you.
was rough for a lot of people. And I know that was a moment that probably sucked for you and your family.
Yeah, he was a good boy. He was a good boy. But you know, I'm just glad that he didn't. I actually had the appointment for the person to come and put him down the next morning because I could just see he was fading, and then he just he did it. He passed on his own. So I
He had his
didn't.
little
I felt
swimming
like I
pool.
didn't have to make the decision for him. You know.
Yeah. He had the little swimming pool routine, right? That's where you started to notice he wasn't showing excitement or something like that.
Yeah, and he was you could just tell he was slowing down drastically. Yeah, he would go in the pool it's like 6 times a day. Even no matter what the weather, raining, shine, ice, snow, no matter what, he would just go in there. And I
wow.
And
hated it,
sometimes he'd be
but
pissed. I
yeah, I'd
remember.
be pissed. But you know, it'd be 1:30 in the morning, he'd be out there, but you know, I hated it, but I miss it. I'd do anything to dry him off one more time.
What's the coldest he went in there?
Oh man, you literally have to break the ice on the top, you know,
What a,
on the pool cover, and just be
that's a
sitting
tough
in there.
dog. Man. Nice. You asked about ours. Ours is a Jack Russell Terrier.
17 years old though.
Yeah, 17. He just had his 18th Christmas because of the way, you know, he was born in October. So yeah.
Well, little dogs live. I mean, he's still doing okay.
Going
He
up and down the stairs on his own. And yeah.
Wow.
yeah, I had to write a quick note to Goes right now because he came down the stairs, which we don't like him to do. We carry him. We don't mind him going up. It's good for his little thighs and hamstrings and hips, but he doesn't hear as well as he used to. He doesn't see as well as he used to. But yeah, I would say he's doing good. But there are times where, like when his pancreas is flared up, where you just see him and the tail's down, and you're like, oh man, it breaks your heart.
17 that's a long time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
good for him.
All right, man. Well, thanks again for the time. Happy New Year. Stay safe out there. And
Yeah.
I guess 2021, can't wait for some of these big fights coming up. Hopefully Felder doesn't retire because I love watching that guy compete, even though he's
Paul
boss
Paul
commentator.
just calling me now.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it's for a big fight. So anyway, thanks, Brian, for your time. We appreciate it.
And no, thanks for having me, guys. It was good to see you guys, and I hope everything is great for you guys next year. Glad to see you guys are still, you know, doing your thing, and yeah, you guys are just the best.